You've probably seen Donald Trump's lawyer, Joe Tacopina, quite a bit lately. He's the one on TV trying to defend Trump on the various indictments and investigations the ex-president is facing. Today, that guy, Joe Tacopina, was the Trump lawyer in the courtroom, actually lawyering, cross-examining a woman who says that Donald Trump raped her. Tacopina intensely pressed E. Jean Carroll repeatedly, asking why she did not scream for help during the assault. She said, quote, "I'm not a screamer. You can't beat up on me for not screaming." Tacopina responded, quote, "I'm not beating up on you. I'm asking questions." Carroll replied, "Women who come forward, one of the reasons they don't come forward is because they're always asked, why didn't you scream?" And then, in tears, she said, "He raped me, whether I screamed or not." MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Rubin, who has been following this case from day one, was inside the courtroom today, and she joins me now. And I have to say, just reading through your reporting and others, the transcript, it was sounds like just an incredibly emotionally intense day in that courtroom.
It was a heavy day. Absolutely.
How does the cross-examination start off?
Cross-examination started off this morning, Chris. It was such a long day that I'm almost at a loss to remember exactly how he started off with her. But what I will say is that he was a lot gentler than I thought he was going to be. You know, Tacopina is a person known for his bluster, definitely commandeers a courtroom. For himself, he was restrained, and yet at the same point, he couldn't really help himself. The thread of his cross-examination today, in addition to pointing to her various motives, was the coulda, woulda, shoulda defense, right? E. Jean Carroll should have screamed. She should have called 911. She should have told people. The fact that she waited 27 to 28 years to come forward with her story. All of that, to his mind, undermines how a real rape victim should have acted and does act.
And what was her response to being essentially accused of being an imperfect rape victim and ergo lying?
I think E. Jean Carroll owns the fact that she's an imperfect rape victim and that there isn't any perfect rape victim. And in fact, if you spend time with people who are expert in sexual assault, one of the things they will tell you is that assault victims and other people who have experienced massive traumas in their life, they don't tell stories in a particularly linear way. They don't remember details that most of us would remember about memorable moments of our lives. And yet others for them are searing and painful and vivid, like smell or noise. But it's no accident, E. Jean Carroll said, "I don't remember the date, I don't remember the season, I don't remember the year, and yet I remember exactly how it is that the assault went down moment by moment in terms of our walking through the store and what was supposed to be this hilarious, funny lark of a story suddenly turned into something very, very different."
You know, I keep being struck by her composure and wit in what I read. There was a line she had where her lawyer on direct early in the day was talking about basically trying to inoculate her from cross-examination about you're doing this for attention.
Right.
And she said something along the lines of like,
I like attention.
She said, I like attention.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want attention for being raped. Like, attention for like a great 3-bean salad.
Yes. She was funny the whole day. I should say that one of the things she was talking about in the early parts of the story with Trump, when they're walking through Bergdorf Goodman and she thinks she's going to get him to try on a lace one-piece bodysuit over his suit, she makes mention to the fact that it reminds her of an SNL skit that she wrote in 1986 starring William Shatner and Nora Dunn. I looked it up today. It does exist, where William Shatner is posing in his underwear in the mirror while his wife gets ready for a party. And she said, you know, I won an Emmy for that sketch. This to me was comedy. Two opposites is the essence of a comedic situation. So she was always thinking about this almost as a writer and a comedian from the get-go.
Tacopina once says, and now that is, you know, he talked about her motivations and the book, right, that this was essentially a publicity play. She fabricated this for publicity. That is your book in which you included the story about your supposedly being raped by Donald Trump in a Bergdorf Goodman changing room, right? Carroll, not supposedly. I was raped. Tacopina, that's your version, right, Ms. Carroll, that you were raped? Carroll, those are the facts. She just keeps, I mean, it's not surprising that she gives no ground on this because she has gone through, moved heaven and earth to be there to speak her truth,
right?
Say what she says happened to her. But how did she fare under these conditions as a witness?
You know, there were times during the day where she had to give on certain things. For example, Tacopina wanted to corner her about whether or not she received a signing bonus from her publisher when she first signed the contract for What Are Men For? And he showed that there were some inconsistencies between her testimony today and what she said at her deposition several months ago. But the core of her story remained untouched by him. And I believe that's because she is telling the truth about what happened to her.
I mean, I am inclined to believe that as well. But of course, the jury will make that determination. And
That's
sometimes,
right.
you know, the sort of tropes we have about the ugliness of cross-examination of survivors of sexual trauma often is because it is a useful inquiry for a defense lawyer, right?
Right.
To poke holes in the credibility. How do you think this read to the jury as best as you could tell from being in there?
It's such a dangerous game to try and read jurors' faces, right?
Right. No, I don't mean that. I just mean it sounds like you think her credibility on the core of this remained intact through the cross.
I think that's right. But again, I was inclined to believe Eugene Carroll's story before I walked into that courtroom, and she's now facing 9 jurors, many of whom said they didn't know anything about that story when they walked in. I will say they were all extraordinarily attentive through the day, and they seemed sort of wrapped throughout the day, whether that was watching the judge or watching Eugene Carroll. And I should say, the judge himself was really policing what was going on today. And one of the things he was annoyed by was Tacopina's repetitiveness. He basically said, Mr. Tacopina, the fact that that Miss Carroll didn't call the police is about as well known and notorious as the fact that the Yankees haven't been in the World Series for, I believe, the last 20 years. If I got that wrong, baseball fans everywhere will complain on Twitter tonight.
It would go a lot faster, he said to Tacopina, if we cut out the repetition, if we stopped asking argumentative questions. Lisa Rubin, it's great to have you here, and it's great to have you in that courtroom. For us, you've been doing great work, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.